Hey, in this tutorial we are going to do the basics beginning of a endless runner game. We're going to add robot Kyle, and we're going to give him some animations, and we're going to add a cube that's going to be our running platform, and we are going to put in the movement script so that Kyle moves in only 3 lanes. The first thing that you need to do, and which I've already done, is you need to go to the asset store, and in the asset store you can search, and you want to search for Robot Kyle, and you'll be able to then find Space Robot Kyle, and then if you click on the name you can actually download it. I will see import because I've already downloaded it, but you'll see download, and then you can download Robot Kyle, and you'll get a little pop-up box here with everything ticked, and with everything ticked, click import, and then Robot Kyle will show up here. And then you also want to, in the asset store, search for raw mocap data, and it looks like this one. So you just click the title, and then you're going to click download, import, download, and then import. Okay, so once you have these two imported, they'll be in your project window, and you've got your hierarchy. So the next thing that we can do is we can just click up here to get back to our scene window. So here's our scene with just a camera and a light. And we can save this scene just to keep ourselves organized. So we'll go save scene as, and we'll call it level 1. Level 1. And it's getting saved in assets. So we're going to save that. And so now we have the scene saved. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add our cube into the scene. So the cube is going to get added into the hierarchy. So we can click create here. 3D object, cube, and then our cube is getting created. Over here in the inspector, we can see the name of our cube, and we can see that its position is 0, 0, 0. So we actually want to put it at 0, 0, 49.5, and that is and then we want to make the scale 3 telephones, outdated technology, 3.3 and 100. Okay, so doing it this way, that means the beginning of the pathway for Robot Kyle is going to be at 0 because it's at a scale of 100, and the midpoint of the 100 is at 50, and we want it at 49.5 so that it's just slightly behind 0 so that Kyle can stand at 0. Okay, so that is the positioning that we want to have for our cube. So there's our cube. So the next thing that we want to do is we want to work on Robot Kyle a little bit. So for Robot Kyle, you'll find him if you click on Robot Kyle, or just the down arrow, then you click on the down arrow by model. There's Robot Kyle. Hey, sweetie. And if we click on rig, by default I've got it here at legacy and store in root for generation, and we want to change that. We want to make it, the animation type is humanoid, and we want to make it the avatar definition is create from this model. So that means that right now we don't have an avatar, but as soon as we put Robot Kyle into the scene, because we have this create from this model setting, when we add Robot Kyle, we're going to get a humanoid. So let's go ahead and take Robot Kyle and bring him into the scene. I forgot to click apply, so see the apply button, but I got reminded, apply. Okay, so sorry I dropped him way up high. So you can see I dropped him in completely random location. So let's just reset. And there's Kyle at 0, and you can see that his feet are kind of in the ground. So We are going to change his position here to 0.2, and that's a nice location. And then we're going to leave him there because he looks good there. Hi, Kyle. And then the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to work with our camera. So our main camera currently is pretty far in the distance behind Kyle, and that's a little bit far away. So a nice location for the camera is actually, camera is 0.2 or 2. Where is that going to put it? I don't know. Okay. Oh, 0, 2. Yeah, 2 and -2. Okay, so now we're kind of above Kyle, as you can see, but we can't see Kyle's feet, and we can fix that by changing the X rotation to 15. And you can play around with the exact positioning, but that's the positioning I've chosen. So I've got the camera behind Kyle and above and looking down. And so that's good. And then we are going to, now this is a cool thing. When you're doing games and you have a character and you want your camera to follow the character in game, all you have to do is take your camera, well, first align it the way you want it to be. And then you can actually drag your camera onto your character till your character turns blue like that. And then you can release. And the main camera is now inside the Robot Kyle as part of Robot Kyle. So now if we move, if we move Robot Kyle, so and then if I look at the camera view, the camera has stayed straight behind Kyle. So actually you can't even tell that Kyle has moved. Oh, I just moved the camera. I escaped. Okay, so now if I click Robot Kyle and I move Kyle back again, the camera is going to go with Kyle. So that's nice and organized. And now we actually want to create an empty. So this empty is going to be the character, and this is where we're going to add all the character's qualities. So if I say create empty, and it's just called game object, and you can see it there. It's an empty game object. And I am going to call it character. And that's going to be our Kyle character. And then I can take Robot Kyle and I can drag him into that character. So now this is just one thing, okay? And everybody's all set. Everybody's happy. And so the next thing we're going to do, so we need to give Kyle animations, because right now if you look, the character, so when we're in character right here, we don't have anything except transform position. And when we click on Robot Kyle, we have this animator, which we're actually going to remove, and we have Kyle's permission, so transform position. So we are going to remove this animator because we are going to attach everything here to this character. Okay, rather than attaching it to Robot Kyle. Okay, so now let's go back over here. So we can close Robot Kyle. So here's our project. And so we're going to create for our project an animation controller. So an animation controller is kind of, animator controller is here. You have to scroll down a bit. And we are going to call it animator with a capital A, animator. Okay, oops. Yes, so we have an animator. Now, animators are cool, so you can click open or you can double click, and it brings you into the animator window. So we can still go back to scene and forward here to animator. So in the beginning, the animator just has any state entry, and there's also an exit, which we're not going to use. And if you right click anywhere, you get this option to create a state, and we're going to say empty. And then we're going to click on that state, and rather than having it called new state, we're going to call it run. So, oopsies, this is going to be Kyle's running state. Okay, so we're going to give Kyle a running state. And right now you can see that there is no motion attached to Kyle. So, let's see here. So before we attach a run motion, let's go ahead and take a look at it. So in raw mocap data, this is where the animation data is. There's animation. So if we click this down arrow and click into sprinting and run impulse, and then we go to, and you can see the rig is here, fine. And there's the animations, import animation is ticked, that's good. And then down here where it says loop time, so again we're in run impulse, inside sprinting, inside animations, inside raw mocap data, and then we've clicked on animations here. And in here, if we scroll down, loop time, we need ticked. And bake into pose for the root transform rotation, we need ticked because we don't want his rotation to be changing. Root transform position Y, we want to bake into pose, and this means that he's not going to go up into the air or down underneath the platform. Root transform position X and Z, so Z is going to be moving forward and X is moving right and left. We want to keep those unbaked because we want those to be able to change, so we will not tick that. Okay, so then if we scroll down and move my handy video out of the way, there is an apply button. So we can apply that, and that's applied. Good. So now that we've got this run impulse modified the way we want it, now we can open it, and this run impulse here, this gray one, is going to be just what we want. So if we click on run, and you can see the gray play button here is none. We can grab this gray run impulse and drag it in. And now we have the run impulse attached. Okay, so now run impulse is working. Okay, good. So now we are going to click on our character. And our character currently has no components, but we want to add an animator component. So we're going to go add component. I already have it searched, but so you would come in here. So ANI, and we want animator, not animation. And in the animator, we can see there's no controller, but this here is the controller we just made. And remember, we called it animator, so it's right here. So you can click this and drag it into the controller. And then I failed. I will try again. Come on, go in. Yes, okay. And then avatar, I'm just going to close that because our avatar is our Kyle avatar. And remember, our Kyle avatar is inside of the Kyle. Remember before there wasn't one, and we clicked that button to make one when we made him, so we made him, and here it is. So that's Robot Kyle. That's our Robot Kyle that we made. And so we'll put that in the avatar. Okay, so now we also actually need to apply root motion. I think. We'll see for sure. Okay, and then, okay, so now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to add our character movement script. And this is going to be, so we have this character. The character has an animator, and that reminds me, we need to add a, we need to add, multiple things. We need to add a capsule collider. Good. And I feel like there's something else we need to add that I'm forgetting. We'll get back to that. Okay, so now we have an animator and we have a capsule collider, and I'm going to remember this in a minute. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do then is we need to add a script, and the script is going to be the thing that tells the character what key presses to respond to and how to move. So to do that, we're going to, in the project panel, create C# script, and we're going to call it character movement script. Okay, So character movement script, yes. And now when I double click, it's going to open it in, the script is going to open in MonoDevelop. But I just want to let you know that if your MonoDevelop is not opening by default, if you go to Unity Preferences, and external tools, sometimes this is set to something else or to nothing. So you want to make sure that's set to that MonoDevelop. Boom. Okay, so now you know your MonoDevelop's going to open. But what I'm going to do is I have script to copy because I'm not going to write it out for you. Partly because I'm really just not that competent at script writing. So let's see, I've got all these instructions and this is the movement script. So I'm just going to copy this. Okay, here, okay. And then I'm going to go back to Unity. So now we're going to go into character movement script. And wait. I can feel how hard my computer is working. Okay, and we're going to highlight all of this because we don't need any of it, and we're going to paste this in. So okay, I added in extra script. I'm sorry. I'm going to remove this jumping and sliding script because we're not going to use this now. So delete. All right, so what we've got here is, and we can take these two out. Okay, so I just copied from the wrong place. Sorry, I was disorganized. All right, so now what we've got in this script, the first off is we're calling the libraries that we need. This next line has to have the correct title. So if you copied and pasted script and you called the script a different name from what was written, you need to edit that so that they match. So this actually does match. Then the other thing is we need to call up the animator in order to be using this animator behavior. And the other thing we're doing is we're creating a private integer called lane, and lane is, we're going to use lane for like the middle, the right, or the left. Now, at the start of the game, the lane is going to be 0. So we could write, at the start, we could put -1 if we want. It doesn't matter. And that for the variable animator, it's going to get the component animator. So then we're going to have our animator all set up. Then in the update, this is where we tell Unity to take, if the key that's pushed down is the left arrow, then if the lane is less than -1, so the lanes, it starts at 0, so the lane to the left is -1 and the lane to the right is +1. So if the lane is greater than -1, reduce the lane. So if it's 0, which is greater than -1, and you push the left key, it'll go down. But if it's -1 and you push the left key, it will not do this, because then you would go off into a non-lane. And then we have basically the same except reverse. If the lane is less than 1, then plus. But once it gets to 1, it won't plus. And then we're just talking about the fact that when we're talking about this lane, the position we're talking about is the X position. Okay, so that's the character movement script. And we can Command S to save, or go File, Save. And then we can just click over here and we can click on our character. And we can click once on our character, and we can add the character movement script. computer is exhausted. Okay, character movement script. Okay, that's good. Now let me just look back at the script and be reminded. Okay, so to my thinking, I think this should work. So we're going to find out. Fingers crossed. I press play. I've got my finger on my arrow keys. Left, right, left. Still pushing left. Doesn't go off the edge. Right. So that's cool. So now we have Robot Kyle and we have left and right arrows. Okay. So if you want to play around, you can go into your character movement script and you can change your numbers. So let's just do this for fun because we're here. Why not? What if we say minus if lane is greater than -3, and here we change to +3 and we save. Let's see what happens. See, now we can go 3 lanes. Woohoo! The world just got a whole lot bigger just by changing 2 numbers. So I hope you have fun making Robot Kyle do exercise and zigzag along the path of life.